Something strange happening to men, not in a loud, visible way, but silently. More men than ever dropping out of society entirely. And it's not just that men are becoming infantilized with terms like adulting now becoming normal. There was a time when a man's value came from what he built. His worth was measured by his resilience and his discipline. But today, a man's worth is measured by likes and followers. We live in such a strained, unnatural environment that is bound to start a war in society. But men in particular are battling to keep up and are slowly giving up. Giving up on dreams, giving up on doing anything. The average man today spends more time escaping reality than building a life worth living. We have traded purpose for pleasure. We have replaced discipline with dopamine. And the worst part? We don't even realize it's killing us. Life nowadays never been better. We have all the technology we need. You want food? Tap a screen. You want validation? Post a picture. You want pleasure? Watch a video. The modern world gives men everything except fulfillment. Because when everything is instant, nothing feels earned. Everywhere you look, someone is trying to sell you something. A better life, a better body, a better self, and men fall for it because they feel incomplete. They feel lost because deep down, they know they were meant for more. Which is probably why 40% of young men age 18 to 45 meet the criteria for depression, and 49% of age 18 to 45 meet the criteria for depression. 23 years old have had a thought of passing themselves in the past 2 weeks alone.
Men account for nearly 80% of all suicides in the US, the highest rate observed among 45 to 64-year-olds globally. Suicide is the leading cause of death amongst young men, and a survey conducted in the UK found that an increasing amount of men feel hopeless and worthless, and that are struggling with finding meaning and purpose in the world.
Modern society doesn't want men to be strong. It wants them to be consumers, working jobs they hate, buying things they don't need. Men are more depressed than ever. According to the World Health Organization, men make up 75% of all suicide victims. 3 out of 4 men say they feel disconnected from others. Since the 1980s, testosterone levels have dropped more than 50%, and yet we are told to ignore it. Why? Because there's a coordinated effort to suppress masculinity and turn men into something they were never meant to be. This decline is no accident. We are constantly exposed to harmful chemicals in our food, and everyday products bombarded with ergogenic chemicals from plastics junk, food and sedentary lifestyles, which is why testosterone levels have been declining for decades, with a 197% drop among 60 in 2004 compared to 1987. Sperm count and strength in men are also decreasing exponentially, with a 32.5% decrease in mean sperm concentration in the last 50 years. In 2025, the average man is more educated than ever before, but also more disconnected from his work than any generation before him. According to Gallup, over 60% of men under 35 describe themselves as emotionally disengaged at work. A record number of men in their late 20s and 30s say they don't see a future in their careers. In the 1980s, one income could buy a house, raise a family, and still save. In 2025, even with 2 degrees, most men can barely rent a room in the city they work in. A study by Pew Research showed that real wages for men have barely grown in 40 years, while housing prices have tripled. A survey by Deloitte found that 63% of young professionals feel their job does not align with their values or interests. Studies shows that men report record high levels of loneliness, with over 50% saying they have no close friends at all. A Harvard Business Review report from 2024 found that men are 35% more likely than women to quit jobs for lack of purpose. Study confirms that one Canadian employed man, lower job satisfaction was strongly tied to a reduced sense of meaning in life, which in turn was linked to high psychological distress. Another survey found that 66% of professionals said they did leave their role if their job better aligned with their sense of purpose become available. And while these statistics span both genders, men, who often tie their identity to their work, seem to be hit harder when that link breaks. The labor market is changing. More people say they won't settle for a just okay job. One report said 2/3 of workers said they would leave their current role for one that better matches their sense of purpose. For men especially, whose sense of purpose is often interwoven with their career, the mismatch stings harder. So what causes the mismatch? The rise of work that is disconnected from craftsmanship or impact. Jobs where the value is hard to see or feels outsourced to algorithms. A culture that rewards productivity over meaning. A society that used to honor the provider role and is now vague about what men are supposed to be. If a job doesn't support your basic need of a home, food, and transport, it is better than justifying the effort for this job. There is even a new term called quietly quitting, where you do the bare minimum of your job to the point that you are almost rendered useless and you get fired or simply quit. The fact that this term even exists shows that the attention is desperately needed to solve this problem, and while this is happening, it's becoming more and more common for both partners in a household to be living the same life, or even with most males' partners actually being the breadwinner. And watch, this isn't necessarily a problem at all. The problem that there is a huge group of men, roughly about 7.2 million in America, between the ages of 25 and 54, who are not working and not even looking for work. And what's even more shocking is that 40% of these men do have some kind of degree. 83% of Gen Z quit at finding their first job. And what happens when options ran off and they find themselves simply stuck? Giving up is their next step, and accepting is easy. In a recent study, data indicates these men are not only working, but they are cutting themselves from their communities. They are cutting themselves from community because going out would oppose their lifestyles. It will make them uncomfortable. Why leave when you can endlessly watch brain rot content and numb yourself at home? And any sexual needs you have can be just satisfied with pixels on a screen. This type of lifestyle is becoming more and more common for the men in the West. And that's not they don't want to change their lifestyle. It's that they don't believe change will make anything better. Many men look at the road ahead and see nothing worth walking toward. They are not lazy. They are unconvinced. Unconvinced that hard work will pay off. Unconvinced that anyone will notice their progress. So they retreat. Not because they are weak, but because the world hasn't given them a reason to fight. In their childhood, they were told they could become anything. But when they grew up, they realized no one meant it. The world demands everything from men, but gives them very little back. You can see it in their faces. The 28-year-old guy living alone, drowning in rent and delivery food. The college graduate whose degree feels pointless in a job that drains in his soul. Men are stuck between two worlds. One tells them to be strong, and another that punishes them when they are. They are expected to pay the bills, but mocked for working too hard. Expected to show emotions, but ridiculed when they break down. Expected to be strong, but never how to heal. Because behind every "I'm fine" is a man fighting a war you will never see. He doesn't need saving. He needs space to rebuild, to feel, to breathe again. Every man you pass on the street, the one in the suit, the one on the construction site, the one behind the counter, they all are fighting a battle you will never see. Men aren't quitting because they are weak. They are quitting because they have taught to fight without rest. The world doesn't need perfect man. It needs present man. So if you see a man who is growing distant, reach out, not to fix him, but to remind him he is not alone. Because sometimes what saves a man isn't therapy or success. It's one quiet moment of understanding. The world has enough men who survive. What it needs are men who live.